Hello, everybody. I'm sitting here together with one of my clients, Cara, and we've been working together for a little while, and we've been trying to get this interview scheduled for a little while too. So I'm so happy that it's finally happening. How are you, Cara?
Thank you for your patience in scheduling. I'm good. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Fantastic. So we have Cara's dog is off screen, but he's lying there somewhere and snoring. And it's not, we can't hear him, but if something happens later on in the interview, then everybody knows who's doing the snoring.
Trust me, it's not me. I don't snore that loudly. And I'm also not nearly as cute as this dog. So,
It could be me, but I'll keep awake for sure. I'm excited about speaking with you. So all right. Well, we're going to have a little chat about your business development journey. And the question that I always start off with is, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Cara, and I am essentially a psychiatrist. But I wear a number of different hats as a psychiatrist. So I am triple boarded in general psychiatry, addiction psychiatry, and forensic psychiatry. And so I do work as a medical director for the Department of State Hospitals in California, but I also do private work in a group consulting practice that is mostly forensic practice. We do some clinical consultations there as well for very complex cases or very specific high specialty cases like sports psychiatry cases and things like that. But the bulk of our consulting work is for attorneys in the courts and so on and so forth. I also wear a pretty big hat in academia. So I am faculty teaching for forensic fellows in a number of institutions, and I teach the forensic review course at the American Academy of Psychiatry and Law. So I'm very involved with everything that has to do with training, certification, and advancement of academic pursuits.
Excellent. And tell us what made you want to work with us in the first place? What was going on? What was on your mind?
I think, I'm very grateful in that I've been very successful in my career. I've been a forensic psychiatrist without doing math and counting my age or any of those things. I've been a forensic psychiatrist for a little bit over 15 years. And in those 15 years, like I say, I've had a very successful career. I established a successful private practice and have had advancements in my job, but I couldn't push past a certain sort of bar ceiling. I don't know what it was. It didn't help that in 2017, I moved from the East Coast, where I had done all of my training and had all of my contacts and my relationships and everything, to the West Coast, where I knew nobody.
Yeah.
So that shift, I was able to rescue a lot of my private practice, but definitely not grow it. And so a lot of the cases that I was still handling in my private practice were cases from clients in DC that obviously made it really difficult for me to handle if I was in California. And California has a ginormous population, so it's ripe for an expansion of the practice, but I just couldn't. And it didn't matter how many, conferences I went to and how many initiatives, like we redid our website, we did all the things that everybody tells us to do. And it just seemed like, it wasn't for nothing. I love my new website for sure. But it seemed a very low ROI, if you will.
Yeah.
And then I think I don't remember exactly what social media platform I saw a video of yours on that essentially said, oh, I do remember. I think it was LinkedIn, and it said, why doing these things won't help your consulting expert witness practice. And I was like, literally, that's everything I've been doing. So thank you. So I hired you for telling me everything that I was doing wrong. But it made sense to me. It made sense that I had been doing those things to a T. and it was just not working. And every single consultant, marketing, PR, practice development consultant, all of those people that I reached out to for expertise, they were like, oh, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it wrong. I'm doing exactly what you all are telling me to do, but it's just not yielding.
Oh, so they were saying you're doing the right activities, but you're doing them wrong. That's why it isn't working.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And so let's do SEO all over again. Oh, let's do a website all over again. Oh, let's simplify the website. Or, oh, let's post more. And I'm like, I don't want to post more about treatment because my specialty is consulting and so on and so forth. And, and I treat very severely ill patients and I consult on very severe cases. And so I didn't want to be talking about, the sort of more ambulatory outpatient depression and anxiety. No disrespect to those patients, but they are not of the severity or the complexity that I either treat or represent in court. And so anyhow, so it just seemed like I was spending hours and hours and hours explaining to people what it is that I do so that they could then represent me in social media platforms so that then it could do nothing in return. And so I figured, well, I'll try this new system because at least it's different. I don't know if it works. I don't know if it doesn't. It definitely had like very good reviews and it seemed more aligned. It seemed that the other people that were your clients were people in a more similar boat to mine. They were not opening, a clinic or a private practice where they could see 30 patients per day. They were people in a very similar niche field. So I looked at your clients. I looked at everything you said we would not be doing, and I was kind of very excited about that and decided to give it a shot. And then I spoke with you on the phone, and I think that initial conversation was promising to me because it said, okay, because you got it, like you didn't ask me once what it is explain to me what it is that you do. Like generally, yes, but you sort of knew what I was talking about. I didn't need to explain to you the difference between an expert and a clinician and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think that the combination of the program was different, the clients you had were similar, and the initial conversation with you was like, okay, I'll go for it.
Fantastic. Very succinct. I do appreciate that. I think it's easy to get an idea. I think many people probably will identify with what you're saying because when you're providing the kind of sophisticated services that you're providing and your clients, say referral parties, are pretty advanced themselves, then those traditional marketing business development activities that may work pretty well for other businesses and companies, they're generally not that effective because the drivers are completely different, and you summarized it really well.
Yep.
And then sort of moving forward, and obviously we worked together for a little while, and we had a bit of a conversation here before we pressed the record button where you gave me an idea of how things have been going. So I'm excited to also get that on the video. What's changed. How have things improved now that we work together?
So to give whoever watches this a little bit of context, I think that I signed up with your program late November of last year with the idea that I would get through some of the course materials through that holiday season, and then start the year 2023, because I was very focused on metrics. Like, how am I going to measure if this works or if it doesn't? Because if I'm still hitting that ceiling, then I have to rethink my practice, essentially. So the idea was to get through the coursework and start implementation in 2023, understanding that those first 3 months would be clunky, and we had a few calls and I was getting caught up in all the wrong things and going down all the rabbit holes, and that was to be expected. And so I would say that
you did warn me. So
I did warn you.
You did warn me. Yeah.
I do that. So then come March, I had sort of a preliminary system that could work for me. I had my team kind of lined up, saying this is how where things are going to change. And I had goals that I could say, okay, at the end of 2023, let's see if any of these needles move. And then it might not be all of them, but it might be some. So here we are at 6 months into 2023, but really when I think about it, it's 3 months since an operational implementation.
Yeah.
And there's always something new to learn and to like tack on, but these past 3 months have been, grossly speaking, the bulk of the operation. And I have seen definitely a movement of that needle. It's perceptible in the best, worst possible kind of way, in that like I'm busy. I'm so busy that this interview was so difficult to schedule.
It took us a month or two.
Yes. So I think I definitely seen an influx of cases to the point that I've been able to expand my practice. I've added more team. The way that my practice works is I lead the practice as the psychiatrist, but then I have a team of psychologists that work with me. And so I was able to add 2 new psychologists and then keep everyone with an active case throughout. That was my goal. I said not one of them was sort of waiting on a case. I mean, you wait because they get stagnant in court, but they have active cases on their list, if you will. And in doing that and being able to expand my practice to have more psychologists, each one of them busy, then I could tailor my cases to be more in line with what I really want to sub specialize in, which are malpractice cases, suicide cases, violence cases, just testamentary cases and so forth. But I can do that now because I am not carrying the bulk of the psychological injury cases that when it was less of us, I had to carry. So there's definitely movement there in terms of the number and type of case, but I think there's also has been a change in how I manage my practice, how I monitor my relationships with my team, my relationships with my clients, my relationships with the office in general and the operations. There's a clear benchmark. Like, are we moving towards that benchmark? So it to the point that I'm like, well, okay, it's time for me to revisit my team, because if there are team members that will not be able to keep up with this increased workload, then I either add more people or I have a more direct conversation with those team members to really get precise on what it is that they're willing to commit to or not. So I think that I think that focus actually on relationships has been really important, especially for a person like me, because I'm so technical that I tend to focus on the cases and on the numbers, on this or on that, or the skills, but it's not that I neglect the relationship piece of it. It's just that I thought it would be automatic. Whereas now it's much more conscious. I'm consciously nurturing relationships, and sort of making my practice based on that.
It's excellent. I mean, first of all, very, very happy to hear, of course, that just in those 3 months, you've seen so much momentum.
Yeah.
The interesting point that you made aside from that, which is obviously what the main point for many people, but once you reach the point of getting very busy, then just like you said, then the question becomes, okay, so what am I busy with? Like, am I doing the kind of work that I want to do, or should I be tilting my practice, or should I be offloading some of that work to internal resources or external resources? Now you have internal resources, so as you mentioned, you have people that are helping you with that, and additionally, then you also that relationship building and the nurturing that we talk so much about in the program, that's also migrated from a client external focus only to also being an internal focus. So it seems like there's been multiple benefits.
Yes, I definitely think there have been multiple benefits, and I think that the other thing that I don't know how to explain it. Is that as much as I can say, oh, I'm consciously cultivating these relationships and all that, once you get into a certain groove, a lot of the mechanics of the program are fairly automatic. Like, I know what I have to do every morning or every day, whatever, and I just do it. I don't have to pause and think about it and wonder if I want to reach out to this person or not. I just do it. It's just done. It's done.
That's
It's
a
a
big
decision.
thing.
You've made it once. It's just done.
Yeah.
And so you can move from the task completion aspect of things that really tends to capture your entire mind most of the time, but you are able to move away from that task completion focus and then just focus on now the relationship comes. The task is done. The relationship is what happens now, and ultimately it matters more.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a bit of a challenge at first in like learning how to do that. But I think it has definitely been very eye-opening.
Yeah. And that is one of the things that people struggle with the most, I think, generally, like just looking outside of our services too, like implementation. You can have the best system in the world, but if it doesn't get implemented, then nothing will happen. So you've been able to digest effectively the entire system, and you're putting it to work now. And you mentioned, and before we hit the record button, and also alluded to it now, that when it comes to the business development activities, you're not doing everything yourself. You're doing the key parts, but you're also getting help, right?
Yeah, I am getting help, but part of it is that you need to know how to do it yourself in order to be able to delegate it.
Yeah.
And so this was easy enough for me to learn well, so that I could ask somebody what it was that I needed help with, because my assistant can't do everything that I do for this, but there's no reason for me to do everything that I do for this. So there's pieces, there's steps that can vary from in complexity or in frequency, that keep the ball rolling constant. So there's never a loss of momentum. If I lose my momentum, she picks it up because she has the next step, and she's going to be like, hey, I can't go on to my next step because you haven't completed yours. And that makes sense. I think that it helps that I can break it into pieces. And then it's all about consistency, I think. So we develop a system that works to maintain that consistency. And like you said, I mean, it's all about implementation. And have I implemented every single thing that I learned in the course? No, absolutely not. It's been only 3 months. So, there's definitely things that I'm still learning. I also have another full-time job, and just things happen. And it's also an issue of like, you want to kind of time it right, where some things are so solid that when you introduce a new variable, you know what you can attribute to that new variable and either scale it back or expand on that. And so there is a moment in which you reach, okay, the next few things will be in a stepwise approach, and these will be the reasons for that stepwise approach, and so forth. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the right way of doing it. I mean, clearly you've implemented the most impactful activities first, and that's generally the best way of going about things. And I think that not only will help you produce results, but it will also at least protect you to some extent from being overwhelmed, because I do see that with some people, that they just go for everything at the same time. Let's do all of these different things, and then they feel overwhelmed. How and if you do 10 different activities and you do none of them particularly well, then results is not going to be as good as if you do one activity really, really well.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay, super. So we're getting gradually towards the end of our conversation. So I think you've already answered the question of whether you got more business or not after working with us. So I think that's very good to hear. And then a couple of questions. I think one obviously is, what would you say are the main benefits of working with us? And you've already mentioned that, but if there's anything in particular that you think.
Yeah, and well, the first benefit is that it works, at least for what I wanted it to, which was to expand my practice, and to also like solidify my practice, because one thing that I've seen is an increased number of cases from existing clients that I had.
Yep.
And so even though I had a relationship with them before, and I figured, well, if they need somebody else, they know to call me, right? Because I've already done cases for them. And it's not that automatic. Granted, I've never been an attorney before, so I don't know what happens in their side of the world, but you sort of out of sight, out of mind type of thing. And then suddenly they, there's this reinvigorated relationship. And they're like, oh my goodness, it's so good to hear from you. Let me send you these cases. Let me send you my colleague. And they're doing the work for you. So I'm like, cool, thank you. So, I mean, I think that has been very helpful to just sort of establish and grow, always establish and grow, or to, strengthen and grow. I think is probably the better term. I think
funny how that works, right? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, Cara, but it's like, again, like I hear that so often. Well, they know who I am. We've worked together before, and it just turns out that often even those super strong relationships need the occasional nudge.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's not from a position of arrogance, right? It's not like, oh, I am so popular that everybody knows me. No, it's not like that at all. It's just that we as experts are trained to sort of be this neutral people that you are sought out only if they need you. And so you don't want to intrude, you don't want to do anything like that. If they want you or if they need you, they will come to you. And it's sort of like a given of how will they come to you? Like I guess nobody tells attorneys how to come to us. And we have always been told that they're being told how to come to us. And so we also don't do the outreach. And we take it as a given that they would know how to find us. And it's just, assumption is always at the root of every error, in my opinion. So I think that getting rid of that assumption has been really, really key. To go back to your original question, I think that what are sort of like the key benefits? I think, like I say, I think it's tailored. Different people do different things. And the more niche your skill, the harder it is to find a group of people that have experienced things like you have, both positive and negative, have experimented with variations of the things that you need to do or not do. And it's kind of nice to just have a community where you can bounce ideas off of, and this makes sense to people so that the responses will be, appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you can take their responses, they can be valuable or not, but they will be on the mark, right? They will be sort of, I don't know, to the point of what you're trying to ask. So the way that I see it is also as an investment. I think that this was the only program for me. I mean, again, we made fun of this. I tend to be a little bit OCD about some things, and so doing a program that allows me to quantify very well what I'm doing is to me very helpful, because when you want to give up and you're like, oh, I don't want to do more of this, it helps you keep going. It's like, well, I invested this much in this program. This is how many cases I would need to get in this amount of time. this is what would offset the program. This is how much time I have to measure that. This is what I would do if it doesn't work. This is what I would do if it does work, to expand and capitalize on that ROI. And so it allows you to have a set plan instead of this, well, let's work on SEO and see how that works. And if it doesn't work, then we'll tweak it. I can't do that. So I think that having something very objective to get through was very helpful for me. And I think that the multitude of emails and conversations that you and I had were incredibly helpful, because like you said, you caught me as I was going down and down and down all the rabbit holes. So
yeah, well, I've really enjoyed working with you, that's for sure. And you're still part of the group and the program, so it's not like it's goodbye for us with this video, but I do know that you're busy, so and hopefully busier and busier.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that we finally did get to do this, because I know that we've been planning it for a while. And yes, I do continue to go to the community, and I love the new site. I think I've told you that already.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm so happy with that too. Finally.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Not that the previous one there was anything wrong with the previous one, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But the new platform is really great.
I keep hearing that, so I'm happy you feel that way too. I just think that the main thing there is just engagement and accountability. Like you end up spending more time there, you have more information there, there's more interaction there, and then you have the updates and so on that just keeps it front and center, and that I think ultimately helps produce results.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Cara. I really enjoy speaking with you.
It was my pleasure.
Maybe we can do a revisit 1 year out or something like that. We can
Absolutely.
see the dog then too.
Yes, I'd be happy to. He's a sharp face, so he has all the wrinkles in the world.
Oh wow, I'd love to see him. Well, thanks again, and we'll see each other in the group.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself. Thank you for your time.